Hello, everybody. Hello, Britt.
Hi.
It's like the worst intro ever. Okay, so it's me, Chels. Here's Chels. There's Britt. More people, more problems. I know my intros get worse and worse every time. Like, I feel like I need to work on this a bit.
You know what I think it is? I always come in singing, and now I'm like, I gotta be not so singing and be more cool. And so I think we're overthinking it. It's like, hey guys, we're back. More people, more problems.
Okay. Okay, scrap what I just said. Guys, we're back. It's more people, more problems with your super cool hosts, Chels and Britt. Yeah, we're here today to dig into another cool topic. Like everything's super cool, obviously. And you know what would be really cool is if you liked, subscribed, shared, and interact with us a little bit on our page, on our social media. Let us know if there's any topics that you want us to dig into, if some of the topics are hitting for you. Suggestions, comments, please let us know because it gives us a good idea of how we're doing and is this resonating with you. Okay, well, obviously that was a really cool intro. So I want to pass it over to Britt, who's going to intro our topic for today.
So today, also, I just love how many times you said cool. I was like, if that was a bingo card, I'd be winning. So super cool topic. Today, we're going to be talking about how to build critical skill sets, which sounds really dry and boring. So we need to come up with a better way of saying that, which maybe by the time we post this, we will. But essentially, what we're talking about is what are the skills that we all need that are highly valued and in demand in the marketplace, specifically in like industries, professions. What are those things? And then how do you consider them? How do you build them? And how do you show them off? And so, when thinking about it, next week we're going to be talking about communication styles. And that's actually one that is so critical. But because we're talking about it next week, so tune in for that little, Easter egg, we're not going to go into that too much right now. But other ones that are really, really critical just across the board, no matter where you're going, are problem solving, critical thinking, collaboration and teamwork, adaptability and flexibility, leadership management, digital literacy. I mean, as we see with the AI world and everything coming on, that's a critical one. Emotional intelligence. How do you understand and manage your own emotions, but also understand and work with others? I'd say continuous learning. How do you continue to evolve? And maybe that leads more into the foundation of this, which is how do you learn and build these critical skill sets that we need. Some of them get it, some of us are born into a family and lucky enough to get nurtured to understand some of these things and build them up over time. Some of us get them in school. We don't have that home environment that really, let's say, builds adaptability or flexibility, but we get it in school because we're shifting around and we need to. Or problem solving and critical thinking. Some of us have an engineering parent and that's all they teach you. Thanks, Dad. Others, you learn it when you go to college or through your friend group. There's no right or wrong way, but I do think it's important to understand that there's some pretty critical skills that we all need in our toolbox to be able to go into, I guess, the world, but more importantly, the professional world. And I think they will help drive your success. The
So,
one, go ahead.
oh, I was going to ask you, what do you think is, you've just listed off, five or six of them.
Yeah.
What do you think right now is what we should definitely be focusing on?
I think there's an emerging one, and then I think there's almost like a lagging one that's always been there that is probably, in my opinion, the most important. The emerging one is like the AI, it's the digital literacy for a combination of reasons. I think that during COVID, when we did a push to do remote work, distributed workforces, digital literacy became the new almost communication style of in person versus digital. And what does that mean? Well, it means how do we bring people together and ideas together to make solutions through a digital space? How do we utilize some of the emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence to do jobs better or to leverage us so that we can do jobs even better on top of it? I think it's emerging. There's a lot of unknowns, but I think that's a critical one to start to grasp. And so that is emerging. And then, like I said, the lagging one, but has always been important and continues to be, is, in my opinion, adaptability. I think that you can have all these amazing skills, but unless you can adapt and learn and evolve over time, you won't actually keep up with the emerging skill sets, with the emerging challenges. So I think adaptability is probably the trusted and true skill set that needs to be developed.
Yeah, and that's at all levels, right? That's not just in terms of leadership roles. That's at all
Mhm.
levels. And you go back to that same example in terms of COVID. How did we adapt and
Yeah.
work through some of the biggest things that were happening, you know, and some of us in our generation that
Yeah.
has or will happen to us. So it's absolutely huge. And then like you said, it's that kind of baseline, adapting to the new technologies, adapting, and I combine that digital literacy also with a bit of data literacy as well,
Yeah.
because we're relying a lot more and more on the data. So how do we break that down? How do we make it something that's useful and analyze it and really understand implications and inform decisions, or support decisions. Uh,
Yeah.
so, like those for me are always ones that are going to be top of mind, and others are complementary necessarily. That you eventually have to have a certain level in those others. The communication, emotional intelligence. That's really coming to the forefront nowadays, and we're
Yeah.
really shifting our focus on, over the last, I'd say, at least decade or so, in terms of work first, work hard, like go, 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 versus sitting back and understanding some of those human dynamics, understanding our own emotions, understanding how others, deliver their emotions and the
Yeah.
impacts of that in the workplace. And I think it's a little bit underrated, or has been for several years, but now it's actually coming out a lot more as a key to work on.
Well, I think it's interesting because in my mind, the way it's coming out even more is it's actually the perfect complement to the data literacy. Like we did this big push for data literacy. Like you said, it's not just AI, it's being data informed when making decisions. It's understanding analytics, it's understanding how to utilize research and data points rather than just feelings of, I think this is what we should do and move forward. But when you start to use so much data and factual, I think it actually increases the need for emotional intelligence to come online because it's great to utilize AI to or machine learning to take a job that used to take, a week and make it an hour long for the machine to do it. But unless you have that emotional intelligence or intuition or, that knowledge of humans, how we work, how I'm feeling, how you're feeling, you can't actually overlay the data with some true skills or emotional intelligence to actually roll it out. Like that's why humans, I think, have a unique skill set that computers don't have is that emotional intelligence. And so, whereas before a bunch of jobs were more data driven, more repetitive, more like factual, now we have machines that can do that better than us. So we need to use judgment. We need to use emotional intelligence as a layer on top to actually have a greater impact. And that's to me, a lot of people get afraid of AI or machine learning and whatnot. And I go, no, I think it gives us an opportunity to even level up above it. And those with emotional, intelligence that are really good with humans are going to be just striving forward. They're going to be thriving in this new era because they can build atop of it. So I think they kind of came in to play with each other rather than to
Right.
go against them.
Yeah, and we did talk about that a lot previously in the podcast, the episode of data driven versus data
Mhm.
informed. And the same example keeps resonating with me in terms of making those strategic decisions. You have to overlay with that the qualitative information at play,
Yeah.
because a widget that is just going to get pumped out through, through machine, through AI, it's not the full picture of things,
Yeah.
right? And it's like I said, back when we were in recruiting and we saw that we were having less candidates from an indigenous community applying into our process, or they were not passing various phases of the process. Okay, maybe we're not being effective. But actually, what we found out at that point is that folks were having to withdraw at various phases because they didn't have access to childcare, or they didn't
Mhm.
have access, to transportation to get to assessment centers, things of that nature. So, like,
Yeah.
really understanding some of that information that is not just readily available through a piece of data that gets
Yeah.
pumped out. It's kind of digging into that and then allowing you to go and mitigate barriers and address some of those issues that you're not necessarily going to have. So I think that's the perfect combination, perfect collision of data literacy, digital literacy, combined with the emotional intelligence to dig a little bit deeper.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And so, I mean, we can either go into building how to do that, or else, I mean, I probably have just transparently, I have the most experience with the adaptability, and I think that one's so critical. So I would love to take some time on how to build that skill set, but I'm also open to exploring the emotional intelligence as well, and the digital literacy. So we can kind of pick which one we want to dig into.
No, let's leave emotional intelligence for another time because I actually have something I'd like to present on that, kind of work through that in another episode down the road. So
Okay.
let's kind of put a pin in that and let's just move into adaptability, kind of the two.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about adaptability. Why it's important, some of the things you can do, I think, to become more adaptable. And then maybe we'll touch on digital literacy. And I want to also talk a bit about the different learning styles and how to leverage them.
Okay.
So adaptability, like what is it? I mean, or why do we need it rather? I think everything is changing daily. As you just said, COVID was a great indicator of a massive change that created a moment in time where we all needed to be adaptable and kind of survive the change, and for some of us thrive on the change of it. But in actuality, there's microcosms of change in everyone's life and everyone's business every single day. So the more adaptable we can be in this very innovative time, we just talked about digital literacy and AI and machine learning. Like, we're in an innovative time. The more adaptable we can be, the better we're able to um, adopt to change and really thrive on it to become more impactful in all areas of our life. But how does one do that? I think the first one, which we've talked about a lot on this podcast, is a growth mindset. Really adopting a growth mindset, having a belief and a know that you can improve and develop over time, and that nothing is binary. Nothing because of what you are today is like going to be the way always. For example, I mean, it's always great when thinking about sports, but this is where I was so fixed. So it really comes online for me. But I went to soccer because all my friends were playing soccer. I sucked at soccer and I was like, soccer's not for me. I'm not a soccer player. I had a very fixed mindset that because that one instance I wasn't good at it, I was never going to be good at it. A growth mindset would be to go to that, to not play well, and to go, oh, this is where I am at this point in time. I need to put more work into it. I know I can get stronger at it. I know I can learn, and I will become better over time. I will become more skillful at soccer. So I think to become adaptable, you need to have that growth mindset, which is a belief that you can.
That
If
you
you
can
put
do it.
work in, you can do it. So that would be my first one,
No, I think
which,
it's a good one. Teach your kids, teach yourself to
yeah,
be less kind of I can't and be more of an I can.
yeah, it's not black and white. So much of our life, I think we think about it, you don't get a job or because you're not ready at this point and you're like, I'm never going to get it. It's like, no, what do I need to learn? What critical skill set do I need to evolve and learn so that I can come back? The next one is build your confidence in your ability to adapt. And what I mean about that, like, let's first actually take a minute to talk about confidence. Confidence to me means the belief that you will be okay through uncertain times. It's the belief that in hard moments, you have the abilities to get you through it. And so when I say build the confidence in your ability to adapt, it means in moments of change where you don't feel like you have any control, where the whole world is, going upside down, such as COVID, you have a confidence that you have before. You've learned that you can adapt and that you will be able to be okay. So, for example, instead of COVID hitting and you being stuck at home thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be alone. I can't do this. I've never done this. I can't do my job for home, like, and just shutting down. It's rather taking a minute and saying, like, you know what? I've done it before. I've been able to adapt when things aren't certain, when there's such big change. I can do it again. I don't have the answers, but I know I will get through this. And I have the belief in myself that I will be okay at the end of this road. And so I think building confidence through experiences and moments and through that kind of self talk, self awareness is so critical to build up over time. And that drives adaptability because you know you can and you will be okay as you go through it.
So it's almost like your self-esteem with
Yeah.
regards to managing the change, because people probably with low self-esteem, um, who wouldn't rank themselves very high, are self-talking them negatively. I can't, I can't, I can't. And I think also in terms of that self-talk, it's really important to actually talk it out loud, like
Yeah.
to say things out loud. You'd be surprised mentally how that has an impact on your behavior and your steps moving forward. So I would just make that a recommendation to people, to say things out loud, help materialize as well.
Yeah.
Put it out
And
there.
confidence is so interesting because it gets built over time. It's usually through feedback loops. It's knowing once again that you will be okay through uncertain times. And so sometimes when you're in it and you don't have confidence, it's because you haven't experienced it. And if you can talk it out loud and someone else that's close to you maybe witness something that you can't recall right away, it will help build it and be like, oh, you're right. When, I got moved a different team and I didn't know any of my peers and I got a new boss, I actually was able to spend time getting to know them and I now became a high performer. Like, oh, I didn't think about that as adaptability. I didn't think about that as, me getting through it. And so you can recall, use different feedback loops through others to create those moments to build confidence. I think another one is seeking new experiences and mindsets that challenge yours to always, I guess, challenge yourself to be uncomfortable.
Right.
Adaptability is uncomfortable. It's change. It's being able to actually thrive through that change. And so, if you're always sitting in comfort and never challenging yourself, it's like a muscle; it gets weak. And so, if you can find little moments to seek a new experience or get someone to challenge you with a new perspective or look at a new mental model that's going to be different than yours, I think you're building that muscle. It's like doing bicep curls. So when you really need to lift something heavy, that muscle has been worked and you're able to be more adaptable because you've found moments to be adaptable every single day. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and this is so funny because we had a conversation around the dinner table last night, and Chloe was saying, Chloe, she's in grade 5, on the verge of grade 6, but after grade 6, she goes into high school
Yeah.
essentially. And so she, oh, I'm nervous, high school is gonna, that's gonna be so different. I said, it is gonna actually be really different. But I said, in reality, a lot of your friends are gonna be there. So you're at least gonna have that comfort. And I kind of went into the whole, like, when I was young. But I think it's a really interesting story for my kids, because when I was young, I grew up in a military family,
Yeah.
and we moved around every 2 to 3 years. And we started, myself and my sister, at a brand new school every 2 to 3 years, knowing no one, leaving behind all the folks from our previous posting. And I said to Chloe, I said, like, and that was really hard. And the first couple of times we did it, I'll tell you, it was flippin' terrifying. And I said, I went into high school not at grade 9, where all of my peers had been together in grade 9, or maybe even come from elementary, come from middle school together into grade 9. I said, I came in at grade 10. And these people were already established in their friendships and their relationships. But I said, because I'd done this so many times throughout my childhood, I actually was able to, like, kind of crack into various groups and friendships, and make my own mark and make my friendships and solidify those as well. I said, so it's hard, but I said, the fact that you keep doing it, you keep practicing, you keep having confidence that you can kind of break into something like that. I said, if I can do that in terms of brand new schools all over the place, new sets of friends, I said, I know 100% that you can do that, and you'll still have a little bit of a comfort zone. But it's
Yeah.
interesting that that experience versus where I go, my kids will have it so easy. They will have grown up with children that they'll have known, some from birth, some from kindergarten, gone to school with for like their entire life. And when my sister and I were growing up, we were in upheaval every 2 to 3
Yeah.
years, starting over, and it was terrifying at times.
Yeah.
But like,
I was more like Chloe, right? Like I went up through the system, had friends along the way.
system
Um, but
sounds
you
like,
know, yeah, I know it
well, it
sounds so
sounds like a
intense.
foster care or something.
Yeah, no, I had a great family. But I think that you're right. And one of the things you just said that really hits is it's okay to be hard. Like hard doesn't necessarily mean bad. And it's actually what you did there was reframing it from all challenges to opportunities, and opportunities can still be hard, you know. And what that was, it was the opportunity to meet new people, the opportunity to build resilience, to finesse your personality style of getting to know people. And when I think about, you know, this skill set of adaptability, a lot of times it's like it should be easy. You should just be great at it. And I think that's such a false narrative. It's going to be hard each time. That's why you have to work the muscle. Like you worked the muscle all through your childhood. So, of course, now when things happen, you're able to adapt really fast. You don't play the victim. You look at it as an opportunity, even when it's probably a challenge, and you're okay with it being hard. You stay curious, you know, like there's so much good in that that I don't think we talk about enough. And I
No.
think as parents or in the workforce, you should actually create some like chaos bots to build this. Like,
Oh, I know. It's so funny, like in the chaos spots, and it's like I've said to the kids before when I put them into summer camps and that. And some weeks they're in a summer camp and they don't know anyone.
yeah,
And they said, "Well, I wasn't able to hook up with a friend or someone who was also going to be in the camp, but you'll be there and you'll make friends, and this is how
yeah,
you approach someone, and this is how you go and put yourself out there, and that kid probably wants to have a friend at camp just as much as you want to have a friend at camp, so it just takes one of you to
yeah,
approach the other one and say, my name's Chloe or my name's Carter, do you want to go play soccer with me?"
yeah,
So like I think those chaos spots are like really cool that we've talked about that, but those are things you can do in your everyday situations. And it's like when I'm at the store with the kids and Chloe asked me, "Oh, like, what's the price on this?" Or, we're talking about she brings her little debit card around, wants to buy things. And I said, I don't know. I was like, go ask the teller. She said, "Oh, no, I'm like nervous." I said, "Why?" I said, like, "Well, I don't need to do it. I don't want to know the price on it. You should go and ask that person. You want to know the price, you go and ask her. You go act like a big person who's about to buy something and pay for it with their own money. So you go and
yeah,
ask."
yeah. Well, and I think what you're teaching is how to show up in different environments and how to build confidence to do things yourself. And it probably fits in a few different critical skill sets because there's a little bit of problem solving. Like it's not your problem to solve, it's hers. So go learn to do that. I think the interesting thing is not everyone gets that through their parents. And I love that Chloe and Carter get that from you. And hopefully, amazing listeners here are teaching their kids all these things. But I think that if not, there's ways to seek and to expand your mind. Adaptability, put yourself in new situations that you wouldn't, that are uncomfortable. Let's just put it that way. Try and think in different people's ways, communicate in different styles. Um,
Cultures, like all of it.
yeah, 100%. And like the other thing too, with all these critical skill sets, actually, I think just an important lesson is that usually the way you learn the most is through messing up. And so it's probably through being really rigid and not adapting and then realizing that that doesn't work for you. Or in communication styles by like, completely budgering up a conversation and then your relationship suffers because you didn't talk about something or you avoided it or you didn't style your communication to the other person. Or in problem solving, you just avoided the problem and you didn't think about it critically. You thought about it too simplistically, too black and white. You didn't think about all the different, considerations. There's going to be moments in time where you make your biggest mistakes, and it's all about taking a moment to do a retro and really inform yourself about like what worked, what didn't, learn from it. Because I think that making a mistake is one of the most powerful things we can do as long as we don't make the same mistake twice. Because that shows no learning, no adaptability, no growth.
Yeah, definitely don't do it 3 times. That's a write-off. But,
Yeah. Even the
no,
second one, I'm booting you.
yeah, out. That retro, that self-reflection afterwards, and then that feedback loop with others possibly, so key, like, to these situations. Like, you absolutely have to go back and sit on that mistake, and you have to dwell on it, and then you have to pick it apart yourself, and then ideally, you might have someone else who can give you some good constructive feedback as well, that you can go back and say, no, that's not going to be the same next time. If I'm going to make another mistake, it's going to be something completely different. I'm still going to keep taking risks. I'm not going to become so risk averse or whatever the case may be, but I'm still going to move ahead, but I'm not going to keep doing the same thing over and over. It's like you said, there's no continuous learning in there. There's no growth.
No. I think the biggest thing, actually, which will lead into the second part, is all these skill sets are really, through research time and time again, you realize there is some fundamental critical ones that you need, like we've talked about. But I actually think depending on the environment you're in, and that could be your friend group, that could be your family, or that could be the office organization, there will be critical skill sets that you need to learn and evolve in to thrive in that environment. And so I think it's all about understanding what you need to be curious on, what you need to learn in to be more impactful in that environment, to sometimes survive, but hopefully more so to thrive, and then how to go about that. And so I think it's cool when I really found it interesting, the different styles of learning, because when I read about this, I realized, oh, this is what I am. And then there's like my dad, who's a different style. And it was very easy for me to look at it. So let's talk about the different learning styles. So hopefully people can kind of classify themselves, maybe let them off the hook if they're one style over another, but utilize that towards greater learning and curiosity to build skill sets to thrive.
Let's do it.
So have you heard? Okay, actually, I'll talk through them and then I want you to tell me which one you are.
Okay.
The first one is a goal oriented learner. This type of learner has a specific outcome or goal in mind when pursuing a specific learning. They focus on acquiring skills, knowledge, or qualifications that directly contribute to their desired career or personal objectives. They tend to be more practical and driven by tangible results. Another one is lifelong learners. Lifelong learners have a strong intrinsic motivation to learn for the sake of learning itself. They have a genuine curiosity and a desire to expand their knowledge and intellectual horizons. Lifelong learners are often motivated by personal growth, intellectual stimulation, and a sense of fulfillment derived from continuous learning. Third one is task oriented learners. Task oriented learners are motivated by the need to acquire specific knowledge or skills to complete a particular task or to solve a problem specifically. They focus on learning with a clear and immediate application in mind. Once the task is accomplished, they may move to another area of learning that aligns with their current needs or objectives. So I would say, unlike goal oriented learners, which is probably zoomed out. So for a goal oriented learner, it might be, I want a better or stronger romantic relationship. So I know that I need to work on communication. I need to work on intimacy. I need to work on these things. So I'm going to go learn about them. Whereas task oriented learners is more zoomed in and specific. It's like, okay, we keep fighting about this one area. So we are going to go learn everything about that topic, on how we're fighting, and solve that. Then we'll move to the next. So I just want to clarify, the
Good
goal is
clarification.
zoomed out. Task is more in. Lifelong learners, they're just curious about everything. Social learners is the final one. Oh, actually, sorry. No, I'm going to actually pause there on the threes, because there is more, but it's the types. And you've probably heard of this, which there's one type that you learn through socially. So, like, learn through talking, through collaborative environments. There's visual learners. They really like to see visual aids that helps them, diagrams, charts, images. And then the third is auditory. And those people really thrive probably in lectures, through like taking it in podcasts. And then the final one is the learners who like do it through doing, using their hands. But to me, that's a different lens than like the why and then how.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like the types of learning,
Yeah,
the type of learner that you are versus how you learn best in
exactly.
that type of environment.
So
So,
what would you be on those two?
so this is interesting because I've had my little epiphanies over the last couple of weeks, couple of months, and I would say that I've always been a task oriented learner, but this is changing for me.
Huh.
So, like for example, and I'm getting curious, I'm doing the things, and so it's a really interesting evolution. Always been really task oriented. I need to do X to get to why. And
Yeah.
like, let's say, for example, one of my goals was, okay, in the public service, we need to have a certain level of bilingual proficiency, like in our second language. So I need to get X type of result in order to maintain my position and my fluency in my position. So that would be kind of my task based learning. I've always been focused. I need to get this, and this. Great.
Yeah.
Whereas I've kind of evolved a little bit more now into more goal oriented, that my goal is actually to become very proficient in my second language, to be confident in my conversations with my colleagues, to write with less errors, to be less reliant on francophone colleagues to review my work or to help translate. And where I'm trying to move into is the lifelong learner. I can see myself getting there. I'm
Do you
not,
think you need to be? Do you think that's the best one? Are you putting that as a stack rank from lifelong to goal to task?
no,
Are
no.
you though?
Okay. And that sounds like that. And you're probably right. It does sound like that. And I'm not saying that one's negative and then one's lesser and then one's better or whatever the case may be. But I want to get to a point where it's just a natural desire to learn that's outside of just needing to do something or needing to get something done.
I
Does
feel
that
like
seem
they're
wrong?
like so it's interesting. I think when we talk about these three learning styles, like their motivations, what motivates you to learn, right? And it's important to understand it because then you can build around it. I think there's pros and cons to each. I'll say for myself, I've always been the goal learner. I take like a really big goal. It's a very zoomed out, like it's like, okay, here's where I want to go. And then there's going to be a bunch of areas within that I will learn, but it's all gonna roll up to a big goal. I've never been a more task. Like I haven't just been as zoomed in. And actually, I've had flaws because of that, because I'm so big that I can get scattered and learn all these things towards the goal, but not get specific enough. And then I get annoyed with the details. And I'm like, well, why would I have to learn that? Because I don't need the details. And I've suffered because of it. I would say that a task oriented learner is very motivated about specifics, about being great. And that adds up to then being great at bigger things, but it's just a different style to get there. I think the lifelong learner, and by the way, I should say the con to the task, in my opinion, would be that you get too minutia and you don't zoom out enough. And you need to force yourself to take a bigger, broader picture so that there's transferable skills that, like, it wasn't just a language. It's now what my bigger goal is to be able to have great communication with my leaders. And to do that, it's not just learning the language, it's actually learning the slang, it's learning the emotional intelligence of how we work around it. Like there's more things to do, right? And so there is pros and cons. The lifelong learner to me is great because you're curious about everything you're learning, but that is the most fragmented. Like if you talk about a T personality, we always say like the top of the T is the breadth of knowledge and the depth of the T is the depth and specific skills. If you're not careful, you can be great at a lot of things, or not even great, you can be good at a lot of things and knowledgeable, but great at nothing. And so there's pros and cons to each one and what your motivation style is. I know for me, goal oriented is great for certain things, and I can't avoid specific tasks because I'll lose out. And sometimes people will talk about other things and I have no care to learn about it. Like, little dirty secret, talking about politics, oh, just bores me to death. Geography bores me to death. Like I have things that I just cannot learn because I don't have a goal of learning it. And that is important for me to know, unlike a lifelong learner. But I don't think that one is better than the other. It's just how you're motivated.
That's interesting. Okay, so that kind of flips my thoughts a little bit on its head. I still think that, and I don't know if I equate task oriented learning to like checking a box and then moving on without zooming out at the bigger picture. And maybe it's just my example that I gave. It's like, okay, if I get my result, I'm good for another 5 years, move on, and then I'll deal with this in 5 years again, which is probably what I would have thought about that earlier on in my career. Got to get the result and then I'll deal with
Yeah.
it later. Whereas now I've moved on to goal in terms of just the result is great and I need to have the result, obviously, but my goal is actually just to be better communicator in my second
Yep.
language in all ways.
Yep.
So like, and maybe it's just that example that for me goes like checking a box. It almost feels like versus going like way more holistically at what I'm trying to achieve. Um, and then the continuous learner, I was just thinking like, I guess, yeah, like you mean you have the capacity to become a continuous learner. And I,
You know what the difference, sorry to interrupt you.
yeah, go ahead.
Goal-oriented learners, I think, are more about checking a box. They're more like for me, I'm actually more about that. Like I have a specific outcome in mind. So for example, I want to build more muscle. I will have a specific action of like I want my body fat to muscle ratio to be something, and I will learn as much as I can about health, about my body, about how to work out until I get it. And when I get it, my goal has been achieved. The task oriented one is like you're motivated by acquiring a specific skill set to, yes, complete or solve something, but it's the skill set that you've learned. So the checking the box is the skill set. So it's not the outcome, it's more of the journey. So for example, let me try and make an example with the podcast. My goal is like this podcast, make it successful. I've learned how to create up like the data pull from Spotify, from all these things. I've tried to learn socials, all this marketing. Like there's so many things I've learned and we're still not there. So I will continue to learn until we get to, I guess, something in my goal oriented mind of like what a specific successful podcast looks like. Task oriented is like, I want socials to be strong. I'm going to learn how to do socials, but it's actually not necessarily tied to a bigger goal. It's like I got to be really skillful at social media and be able to do that. And once I feel like I've built that skill up, I can move to the next one.
Okay.
Does
Okay.
that
Yeah, that helps me to understand a little bit more and it kind of changes my perspectives a little bit. So interesting. I'm going to have to stew on this a little bit probably.
that's fine.
Go
I,
back
I
and
think the biggest
reevaluate.
thing that I would say for our viewers, learn your motivation styles because it's not a bad thing. It's actually just really cool to understand what motivates you. Then you can double down. If you're task oriented, create more tasks, like get really specific so you know what to do. If you are goal oriented, set more goals. If you're a lifelong learner, maybe like just know that and you will continue to learn, but you do have to find ways to get more specific on things. I think I think there's different ways. My dad is a lifelong learner. He knows, he's like Google half the time. I just bring something up and he's like, knows about it. And I'm like, that I will never be. And
Look,
I'm okay with that.
yeah, I find like Gary and like Rochelle's husband, Jeff, like same thing. They're always watching, they're always listening to different things. I'm just like, is that even interesting? Like they're into it.
Yeah.
You know what I
Like,
mean?
you watch like my brother, I remember growing up, like he was always watching the Discovery Channel. And it was like one week was like Shark Week, the next was like this is how grass grows in, Africa. It's like I have no urge to learn those things. I think he's more of a lifelong learner than I am more of a goal oriented. Like it's all okay. It's just knowing that.
So, what would you say is your learning style then? Out of social, visual, auditory, and kinesthetic, what's your
I'm social and kinesthetic.
yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely social. I don't necessarily think kinesthetic as much. I know I'm not auditory because my track record in university would tell you I cannot sit through a lecture and absorb that for the life of me.
I
And
think you are visual.
I think visual helps me. I think it's probably, if anything, a light secondary for me, but I'm definitely the social. And I think like this podcast is like the exact
Yeah.
perfect example because I learn from you every time through the conversations that we have and us feedbacking each other
Ditto.
and then challenging each other. And that is 100% the strongest way that I learn.
Yeah, I it depends what it is because the kinesthetic like show me how to fix the dryer machine, like I'll remember that. Or like a great one is math. If I figure out how to work out the math in my head and by writing down and doing, I have a really good memory of how to do that again. Um so it's like I mean, even like drawing or painting and all these things,
Yeah.
like if I do it, I remember it better. So it's that one. And then it's the social, like I ditto on all the things you said.
And you did that beekeeping. Didn't you do that little beekeeping
Yeah.
when you were in Maryville? It's like
Yeah.
you probably learned so much about how like bees are and like how important they are and how to manage bees
Yeah.
because you were like doing it. You're like
Yeah.
physically in there.
Well, doing it and also it was a conversation. So it was the 2 ways that I love to learn the most. It was a social group of conversation about all these things and then actually seeing and doing. And so you're right, like it's something so random that actually, let's be honest once again, I didn't really want to sign up for it. My sister did and I was like, "Sure," because my goal was to spend time with Rochelle.
Yeah.
And so then I ended up learning this really cool thing. I still enjoyed it. And so it's probably a reminder to me to like go and be curious and learn things that are outside of my realm. But it wasn't something I ever would have chosen. I've been to Miraval how many times?
Yeah.
Never signed up for it.
Yeah. It's so cool. That's such a cool example.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting.
So
I
interesting.
mean, I think, you know, today's episode maybe was less about building critical skill sets and really more about learning, learning and adaptability. Like I think which is actually funny enough, two critical skills that allows you to thrive in a world that is always changing and thrive in a world where you don't understand what a bunch of people are ever going to do. Humans are messy, like we said.
Well, it was how to develop that particular or that or kind of work through, develop, kind of enhance your skill set in terms of adaptability. And I think that's important for everyone, just like you said. So if you were to say what is the TLDL of this episode, Britt, what is the too long didn't listen then?
I think figure out how you learn. Let's start there. What are your styles? What are your motivations? And really double down and leverage that because we all need to learn every day because that's what drives, in my opinion, adaptability is to go be curious, to learn, to put yourself in areas and circumstances that are going to challenge you and you're going to build confidence that you can get through it, which is critical in today's world.
Two thumbs up, my love.
Okay.
Shall we?
There's more. I think we have a few more podcast topics coming out of this, though. I do think we should do digital literacy, double down on the AI, all that stuff, and even problem solving. Like, what the heck does that actually mean? I feel like I'm a good problem solver. What does it mean?
Yeah, I would challenge myself on the problem solving side, but maybe it's because I haven't thought too much about it and I've kind of
Yeah.
got some preconceived ideas about what that is. Just like when we talked about creativity and resourcefulness,
Yeah,
like, well, I'm not a creative person. Like that's definitely not me. And then you and I had a conversation. I was like, oh, maybe I am kind of creative. Yeah.
I think you are. I think we know that now.
I think we know
Okay,
that.
well, let's get creative and go grab a glass of wine.
Yeah, super creative. Let's do it every
Be right back.
time. Yeah. All right.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers to you. Another wine time. Hold on. Let me get a little sipsies here. Mm. Now I see you've got an empty chair there.
Oh, I
Empty.
wonder who's coming in.
Do we have a special guest joining us today?
Oh, look who it is.
Oh, Pamela, love it. Who is this?
The infamous, the one we talk about all the time.
Okay, let's cheers again because I'm
Yeah.
here.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah.
We got my mama,
That's really good.
the one bringing in the wine. So, Mom, what do we got today?
We have cake bread sellers. It is nummy.
It's and it's Capso, one of our faves. Mom can't really do as much red wine anymore, so she has to choose the moments and the times. But this one's worth it, isn't
This
it?
one was worth it. Yes, for
She's
sure.
my white wine drinker.
Yeah.
College.
Buddy.
Yeah. We'll get
Yeah,
the
maybe a little too much, ladies.
wine.
Uh,
Sorry.
so mom's here visiting us. Well, mom and dad, in Arizona. So we have them for how many days?
10.
10 days. Some would say too many days. Some would say too short.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Definitely too
I would
short.
say too short.
Definitely
She
too
might
short.
say too
But
many.
too many for me though, Pam, because you're not here around the corner from me. So
I know. I
sorry.
love it when you come walk over to our house.
And just show up uninvited.
Listen, okay. We like to show up. We like to pop in. They seemed really excited about it. Even Jason came out of his house and
I
greeted
saw
us.
that. So,
It's
okay,
like,
so backstory to the listeners. The house that I grew up in, we moved there when I was like 4 years old, I
Yeah,
think.
I think so.
Right? So like that's been the house for gosh, I guess 32 years. Ugh. And our next door neighbor, shout out to Jason, he was an only child and he was like an extra brother to us. He was always at the
Mhm.
house, part of the family, still is to this day. And he recently just purchased his parents' house. So he moved back in with his wife and two kids. So now, like Charles was saying, it's like a shindig over there all the time. Just a party.
Fallingbrook
Mhm.
North, we got our crew.
Fallingbrook North.
Yeah,
Jeez.
just I like to always differentiate between Fallingbrook South and Fallingbrook North because I like Fallingbrook North a lot better. Not because I live there, because I just think it's a more scenic neighborhood.
Oh,
Um,
rude.
we got the falls, we got all those things, we got the whatever. Um, yeah, and so we got Pam there, like Sean and Catherine are just down the way. We got Jay and Jody next
The
door.
whole gang.
If I want to go for a walk, I'm going to see a lot of people. You know what I mean? And we always know we're walking straight over to Pam and Brad's, and they're always happy to have us, offer us a drink or some snacks and a bit of convo.
The
I,
funny thing is, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna interrupt. The last time Chelsea came over with her kids, the first thing Carter said when he walked in is, "I'm hungry." And Chelsea's like, "You just ate."
Like
But
ridiculous.
we found him some snacks.
That's
Yeah,
He was
usually what
happy.
we all say when we go to our parents' house, though, our grandparents. So Carter's just really comfortable there. Yeah.
someone feed me. I want food. Yeah. And then Pam has to dig out all kinds of snacks and drinks for the kids. I'm like, oh, guys, we're just coming to say hi for a minute.
Chelsea always says how many activities you have at the house. Like how, like, not just to make dinner, you're also have like a painting challenge and like something else. Like the kids are never, you're the ultimate Nana.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I always have stuff.
She's
Yeah.
always got an activity on the go. It's like, so it's always
Or
exciting.
else the last time I was there, it was like Logan, so my nephew, grandchild, and then us. And he's like, Auntie B, I want to go outside. And I'm like lazy on the couch. I'm like, Auntie B doesn't want to go outside. Like I'm doing something. Next thing you know, he's like, Nana, they're outside for like an hour and a half. I was like, he doesn't even realize how lucky he is. Cause like most adults would be like, no, kid, we don't want to do it. Nana always, always does it.
Like, really, I go, "Oh, he picked me. Yay, let's go outside."
I know
I
she
said,
loves it. I'd be like, so we've got 10 minutes and the clock
Yeah, you're on
is
a timer.
yeah,
Or else you're like, I'll stay in and watch you. Show me what you can do out
I do
there.
that all the time. That's
Yeah,
what
yeah.
"Oh, you have to tell him you're or not. No, find game with, or did you already talk about it? The
Oh,
kids
with the
that came
kids.
over.
Okay, well, one of the only times we had people over to the house here was after this like party thing. So they have like a kids zone here, so all the kids were there, and then we went to this Halloween party, and then afterwards we're like, okay, well, you guys come back, we'll have drinks, you can pick up your kids, we'll like do a little thing. Well, I was a little intoxicated, and all these little kids come over. They're between the ages, I don't know, of 6 and 10, and they come in and they're like, there's nothing to do here. And I'm like, of course, we don't have kids, there's no toys, there's no nothing. So in my slightly intoxicated mind, I was like, let's play like scavenger hunt. Like there's something blue in the house. No idea what's blue. No idea. But I was like, let's just like, get them away from me in a loving way. So they go and they're looking for like 45 minutes. And I'm just like, I don't even know if there's anything blue in the house. Well, all of a sudden they come back and they're like, we found it. Come with me. And I'm like, okay. We go into the one spare room, which we did like teal tile. And they're like, is this it? I'm like, you got it, kiddos. You found it. You win. Just busy work, That's the key.
that's about 60% of having children is
Yeah.
just keeping them busy with something
Yeah.
random.
Or making sure they go pee at the right time.
Oh my God.
Well, listen, I was around Logan and that's what I felt like a 5-year-old needs. Like, I see you. You
Mhm.
need to go. Let's go.
Okay, so just off that topic for a sec, what are you guys going to do all week?
You don't want to talk about pee? I'm just joking.
I don't think anyone does. I'll be
We
honest.
have a fun week ahead of us. We are playing in a member guest golf tournament. So mom's my guest, and it's 4 days of golf where we play every day, hopefully kick butt. We have matching outfits for each day.
Mhm.
It's going to be
And
fabulous.
then on the final day, it's a disco theme, and like, I love dress.
You do.
Dressing
She's
up.
been texting me every day with
Yeah.
like
So-
in outfit inspo.
Chelsea, I'll have to put my outfit. I just about came in to wine time with my
Oh
outfit
my
on.
God.
And then I thought, oh, that's maybe a little too much. But anyways, next time if I get invited, I will come with my
Okay.
disco.
So,
I bedazzled
Yeah.
my dress.
No, you didn't.
I haven't even showed you yet.
No.
Oh, yes. So it's very sparkling. And
You got white boots?
Back in the day when I was doing skating costumes, I had to bedazzle lots. So I did that to my dress, and I got my white go-go boots.
Oh, I'm excited.
Like really, you can get anything on Amazon.
I know, it's quite. I have a velvet black bell-bottom halter top pantsuit.
oh, that's so sweet too.
Yeah, so we'll take photo. Mine's a little tight though, and the
Who doesn't like a
demographic,
tyke?
Yeah.
the demographic there.
That's for a different
You just got
podcast.
the real view of mom there. He doesn't
Yeah,
like
yeah.
tight. But the demographic's a little bit of an older clientele, so I'm like, do they really want to see me in like a cat outfit? Because that's what it feels like.
I can't wait to see these outfits.
Me
This
too.
is- it's the best part. And we all know when we do like the Camelot one, in the summer, which we're all doing again this summer, like getting dressed up is like a
Did we
key
invite her?
integral part.
Yes, we're inviting Chelsea. We were thinking we were going to do like a pajama party, and people could wear lingerie.
Oh my God, is that actually?
Well, that was floated around. Sorry, but I don't know. Like,
No, we have to do something better where there's an opportunity to dress like men because Chelsea and Katie nailed it. They won. You guys both won everything.
Yeah. Yeah, we nailed those clue characters, I tell you.
Yeah.
Was it Mr. Mustard, Colonel Mustard, and Mr. Green or whatever?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I was so
Awesome.
happy to dress like in the opposite sex for that one. I feel like we so nailed that, and we swept. We
Yeah,
swept.
you sweep the house. And you walked away with amazing prizes. You got a full-blown like golf bag that's worth $300.
Yeah, Callaway golf bag.
Yeah.
Like, I love
Shout
it.
out to Camelot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
shout out to Camelot.
If anyone's looking, ladies, to golf, Camelot's a great one. They have a wine and 9.
Ooh, yeah.
Wine and
Plug.
Focus on the wine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I gotta do some
need.
more of those this summer, Britt. So make sure you invite me on.
No need to learn to golf. Just
No.
wine.
We don't need to golf. It's the social that we go for. Forget it.
Okay, well, with that, we're at time. Thank you for joining us.
Aw, thank you. Big
Yeah.
hug to you, Chelsea. Big hug. And Katie back there.
I
you're
know.
there too. Miss you guys.
Love you all.
Love you. Thanks for joining. Bye,
Cheers.
folks.
Cheers.
Cheers.